Blackman, yes, he doesn't steal bases anymore, but he does play in the most hitter-friendly park in the majors. He does have guys like Dahl, Arenado, Story, Dan Murphy protecting him. So he should still be a modest value in the fourth round. He's a career 304 hitter. I like Blackman, especially in the third round. VR at 51. Another guy, he's moving, but he's going to get opportunity. Last year, he hit 274. He's 28 years old. 24 homers, 40 stolen bases, 111 runs. This guy's kind of like the fluff pick right now, right? At 51, 111 runs is really impressive, but for a player who's changing teams, it's a bit of a concern. I think 51.3 is a touch high for VR, especially when you're talking about from a runs perspective, okay? Trevor Story. I'll tell you, this guy's a unique profile because, again, I said it earlier, at 10.5, I think he's a touch high. But let me read you his stats. 294, 35 homers, 111 runs, 85 RBIs, and 23 stolen bases. Trevor Story is a true five-tool player. You just don't see that much anymore. Over the past 2 seasons, he has 199 runs. He's pretty consistent at the top of that Rockies lineup. Just like with Blackman, he's got a lot of protection around him. I really like Trevor Story. Xander Bogaerts, 34.5 ADP, had 110 runs. 2 more guys. Really kind of developed into a leader last year. Hit 309. 110 runs, 107 RBIs, 17 RBIs, 33 homers. He's a career 288 hitter. First time ever last year, he hit over 300, scored 100 runs, and drove in 100 runs. He and Devers are the true leaders of that offense now. Look for him to continue similar numbers. His average may drop, but I think the rest of his numbers stay pretty consistent. So, we're the last player that had 110 runs last year, and it's Carlos Santana. Andrea. I don't have anything written about Santana, so I'm kind of going to spitfire for a minute here. I really think it's important when you talk about runs to look at the ADP. And if you want to compete in the runs category, you need to get them early. Because even when you go down into this next tier, and I'm not going to talk about it today, there aren't a whole lot. There aren't a whole lot of players in this next, the 100 runs category. You're looking at Jorge Polanco at 146. You're looking at Adam Eaton at 203. And you're looking at Castellanos at 108. Everybody else is still inside 100. You're not going to get your runs category outside of the top 100, most likely, except for a few special instances. That's why it's important to know about guys like Marcus Semien and Carlos Santana and how significant they are to add them to bolster this category. It doesn't cost a whole lot. 281, 110 runs for Santana last year. I really look for him to... He likes Cleveland. He's let it be known that he enjoys being there. He's a leader in that clubhouse. He had the 1-year experiment. Philadelphia didn't go great. But if you look at his numbers, he's a 253 hitter, which I know doesn't sound great, but he's had some good years in Cleveland. He is a consistent run producer. He's never had over 100, but he's been up around 89 and 90 a couple different times throughout the course of his career. I really like Santana in this offense. He's comfortable where he is. He likes his teammates and his surroundings. I look for him to continue to 397 OBP last year is impressive. I think that goes a long way. Exactly, my pal. 397 OBP. So if you're playing in an OBP league, he's a huge bump up, right? But even still, 93 ribs, 110 runs, and a 281 average. You'll take that every stinking year out of him. So just keep him in mind. When you're making your lists, it's important to know these guys, these little hidden gems that can really kind of bolster these categories that are important. I would argue this is the most important category, the runs category, because all these players are so highly touted. Okay? If you can get a guy that slips like Santana or Semien or Eaton or Polanco or Castellanos, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So I'm going to stop there tonight. What I am going to talk about next week, we're going to start talking about our final lists. We've taken into account all the rookies and the prospects, international players. We've broken them down by prognostications from other sites and lumping them together. We've done it by ADP. We've done it by statistics. Now we're going to make our final list. We're going to go into March talking about making lists for the drafts that we're actually going to do. The drafts that are going to be worth money, that mean something. We all can do all these mocks. They're fun. These league drafts, they're fun. But what we're really trying to do is win money. So starting next week, I'm going to talk about infielders, and we're going to rank them. Okay? We're going to take into account our rookies. Guys, I didn't talk about tonight. I didn't talk about Joe Adell. I didn't talk about Luis Robert. I didn't talk about Jorge Mateo. Guys that could be talked about in these discussions. We'll talk about next week. So, again, Chaps Fantasy Chat comes to you on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network. I come to you on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. Thank you guys for joining me in the chat room tonight. Royals, Malpow, King Hap, thanks for coming by, brother. Appreciate you. Doug Boyle, thank you so much. David, Arnie, Lenny, Andrea, anyone else I might have missed. George is always here. Had to miss tonight, but George is one of my biggest supporters. Timothy Hooker, I don't know if you're here or not, but I sure appreciate you. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the content. Next week, the rubber hits the road, guys. So, Chaps Fantasy Chat, Tuesday nights, Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network on the LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. Take care, guys. Till next week. Later.